This is a comparison video between my HK Mark 23 and my HK USP Tactical in 45. Both handguns have been safety checked and are clear of any rounds in the chamber as well as the magazine. If you want more specific detailed information on both handguns, you can watch my other videos which cover each individual handgun. Starting out, just to give an overview of the two handguns really quickly. The Mark 23 was developed for use with special operations and was developed around the 45 ACP cartridge for the offensive handgun weapon program, whereas the USP was developed for the commercial market around the 40 caliber cartridge. Over time, they've released it as a compact model as well as full size, competition variants, and it has been chambered in 40, 45, 9mm, and 357 SIG. It also has variations in the safety and trigger, such as the LEM trigger. Between the two, the USP, in my opinion, is the better shooter of the two, mostly due to ergonomic differences between them. The USP incorporates a safety and decocker all in one design. The safety is a little more enlarged than the Mark 23s and extends out a little further. I find it easier to engage as well as decock. Whereas with the Mark 23, you have an ambidextrous safety. However, it is very small and at the rear of the weapon where your thumb has more difficulty reaching it. And the decocker is separate, is flat pressed against the side of the gun. So when you need to move the decocker down, it's a little bit harder. If it had protruded from the side of the gun, it would be a lot more easy to engage. The two have very similar slide releases. However, the USP extends a little bit further out, making it a little easier to engage. I find that the grip on the USP is a little more comfortable, and I think this is because there's an ever so slight difference between the distance from the front of the grip to the rear. The Mark 23 is a little bit more elongated and a little less comfortable in my hand. However, it would be different between each person, I would think. For me, though, like I said, the USP is a little bit more comfortable. Also has this pinky extension on the magazine base plate, which I like. As far as the triggers are concerned, I think that the USP is fairly comparable with the Mark 23. They each have their pros and cons. The Mark 23 is a metal trigger while the USP is plastic. I do like the feel of the metal trigger over the plastic one. However, the USP has a screw in the rear, which is used to reduce over travel. And so there's very little to no over travel with the USP, whereas the Mark 23, there is a slight amount of over travel. The reset on the two guns, the Mark 23 has a slightly shorter reset, and the USP has a slightly longer reset. The weight of the two, the USP has a 4.5 pound trigger in single action, where the Mark 23 has a slightly heavier trigger pull at 4.85 pounds. The double action pull on the USP comes in at 11.5 pounds, while the double action pull on the Mark 23 comes in at 12.13 pounds. I do find that the double action pull on the Mark 23 is smoother, while the USP is a little bit more grittier. I do prefer the double action on the Mark 23 despite the added weight of the trigger. The Mark 23 has a longer sight radius, which would probably give you better accuracy at longer distances. However, the USP Tactical has an adjustable rear sight for windage and elevation. It is also serrated to reduce glare. However, they are blacked out, and I do believe that slows down target acquisition. I did put a white dot on the front of my sight, which just helps me pick it up a little quicker. The Mark 23 actually uses the HK P7 sights. They're smaller, less obstructive than the USP Tacticals. and has a 3-dot arrangement, which is fairly standard with handguns. Nothing really special there. It is worth noting that the Mark 23 magazine can be inserted and used in the USP Tactical 45. However, the USP Tactical 45 magazine does not work in the Mark 23 because of the base plate design and the design of the bottom of the grip, as well as the feed lips on the USP Tactical being slightly different in dimensions. You can see the size comparison of the two guns. The 5.09 inch barrel on the USP and the 5.87 inch barrel on the Mark 23. The barrels are both made of the same construction. However, the Mark 23 does have chrome lining, which was required for the offensive handgun program. But they are both cold hammer forged cannon grade steel with an O-ring lockup on the barrel. The finishes of the guns are different. The Mark 23 has a glossier finish. It is the maritime finish, which is basically a lacquer paint over top of its hostile environment finish. This is to reduce corrosion, salt water, as it was developed for use with special operations units that may be going swimming with it. Whereas the USP has a more flat hostile environment finish. I do think that the flat finish on the USP holds up better over the Mark 23. The biggest area of wear is the barrels. I'll show you the barrel of the Mark 23 compared to the USP. You can see that lacquer paint finish on the Mark 23 wears off fairly quickly. They both have about the same amount of rounds through them. The USP's finish on the barrel has held up overall a lot better. Another area is on the hood of the barrel. I'll kind of show you what that looks like on both. So you can see on the USP, there's just a little wear there. Whereas in the Mark 23, there's a much more significant wear pattern there. It does not affect the function of the handgun at all. It's purely aesthetics. As far as how the handguns shoot, I think the Mark 23 might have a little bit more muzzle flip with that added weight of that slide than the USP, which I think is a little bit has a little bit less muzzle flip and is a little softer shooting. The recoil spring assembly on the Mark 23 is much more beefed up and does have more sturdy recoil spring assembly. But both of them shoot fairly comparably. Another win for the Mark 23, in my opinion, is the magazine release is much larger on the Mark 23 than it is on the USP. You can see the USP is fairly small compared to the Mark 23s, which is extended out a little bit. The USP costs just a little over $1,000, while the Mark 23 is closer to $2,000. And I don't really think you're getting a lot more with the Mark 23 besides just the historical significance of the gun and the cool factor. But if you're looking for a handgun that you want to use for, self-defense, I think the USP would be a better choice. If you wanted a cool range toy, something that has a lot of cool historical significance, I would think the Mark 23 would be the one to go with. But both are excellent shooting guns, and the Mark 23 is my favorite handgun I own. I just don't shoot it quite as well as the USP. I'll kind of give you a demo of the triggers. You can see kind of the difference between them. So again, the guns are safety checked and clear. This is in single action mode with the Mark 23. There's a little play in the trigger. You come to a wall, just a little amount of over travel. And then here's the reset right there. You see it's fairly short. Then you come right to that wall again, just a little over travel. Then for the USP, you can see there's a little play in the trigger. You come right to a wall, little to no over travel. And then the reset. You can see it's a little further travel than the Mark 23s. And there's a little bit of play there back to the wall. So yeah, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed my video.